What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso, joined as always by Connor Rogers. Little midweek Tuesday pod heading into Jets Ravens. Connor, how you doing? How you feeling?
I'm good. It's good to be back on the feed. Obviously, Thursday Night Football is always a little difficult. We face the battle of, do we do the show together at 2 a.m.
Free?
when I
Yeah.
when I walk in? Yeah, to release it at 3:30, or does PK jump on and fill in? So I appreciate him doing that. And then and full transparency, you and I were saying like, hey, if the Jets pull off a upset win where they at one point were 13 and a half point underdogs, like, yeah, we probably will just find a way, whether that's me doing it in the car, not while driving, of course, or something. But they didn't. So here we are. We're waiting. We waited a little while to record together again. But, it's our like mini bye week as well.
Yes, and we got a quarterback change. One that I don't think either of us are surprised
Right.
by. We kind of been hinting at it for a little bit, and I think both of us believe that if healthy, Tyrod Taylor starts against the Bengals. And we think a large part of Aaron Glenn's caginess to the media has been Tyrod really hasn't been healthy enough to play. And now, after how Fields played the last two games, to maintain the locker room, I think you need to make a change, and they did. And what's interesting about this one, it's out there. He told the players, Jeremy Ruckert, right to the press. There's no more of the day-to-day press conference battling. Were you surprised by this? And what do you think played out in the Jets building over the last month with this entire quarterback situation, the decision making, and explain why Aaron Glenn had to make this change? You've been a pretty vocal advocate for making it, and now they went through with it, which I think we're both happy about and is also a sign of some progress. But talk through the dynamics of the past month at quarterback for the Jets.
Right. So I'll start with the last part. It's just the reality that this season is not about it's not about necessarily anymore seeing anymore if Justin Fields is going to be your guy for the future. That when you sign Fields, there was always that very small percentile that he shows signs of growth. And and you could listen back to anything we said. We said the most likely outcome, and even that seems too high on him, was that he plays this year. It's more of what he's been, maybe even get a little improvement, but he goes into next year as this bridge guy when you're waiting for the first round pick to take over from him. Now we've reached a point where we don't even know if he will be on the roster, right? Where it's probably more likely that he is not, which is a lot of money to swallow in a year where you're already swallowing Aaron Rodgers' dead cap money, which goes back to an odd choice by Darren Muji that he never wanted to expand on. Why they just didn't take that full hit this year, I don't know, but nevertheless, it's spilled milk at this point. Where I think Glenn was trying to hold on to that a little bit, part of it. That wasn't all of it. Now the year has transitioned to where the Jets are not only not making the playoffs, but Justin Fields, like, it's just not happening here, right? And this is his third stop, the third team where it probably isn't happening anywhere. But you do have a lot of players on this roster all of a sudden that need to be evaluated going into next year. And you cannot do that with Justin Fields at quarterback. And that list includes, but is not limited to, both of the new wide receivers that they traded for in Adonai Mitchell and John Mechie, your second round pick in Mason Taylor, who needs to be a big part of your passing attack, and even the side of just figuring out what this offense is. Justin Fields cannot throw the ball effectively to Breece Hall. And the screen pass that beat the Browns does not count. I'm talking about when Breece is running in ready for a swing pass and Fields doesn't throw it, or Breece is open and the ball's not on time. And so there's a lot to, honestly, the offensive line.
Yep.
You look at the offensive line in this situation, it was at one point hard to evaluate them as well, because the way Fields was holding the ball and his lack of ability to manage the pocket. And with Tyrod Taylor, it's not going to be perfect, but you know exactly what you're getting as a pocket passer, and you know the ball will be out quicker. And you have a guy playing behind an offensive line that's going to manage the pocket on a little bit more of a consistent basis. So also, the way Fields was playing, you had issues too, the spots they were put in defensively and the amount of time they had to be out on the field, and the fact that when this defense punches above their weight class, which is what it felt like they did against New England, it wasn't a great performance, but considering it's a skeleton defense, they kept the Jets in the game. It ultimately just didn't matter because you knew the Jets just couldn't function as a mediocre offense with Fields as part of the passing attack, leading the passing attack to come back in that game. So you had to do that. There's no denying it because it's about the tone to the rest of the team. It's about evaluating going forward. And here's the hidden one that no one talks about. It doesn't blow my mind, but I'm surprised how much it's overlooked. You need to evaluate Tanner Engstrand.
Yes.
I am mind blown, and it's a very small part of the fan base or people observing at this point that think Tanner Engstrand is guilty in this right now. There is no way to evaluate Tanner Engstrand right now with how limited the Jets offense is of what they can and can't do. So that's a big part of it as well, especially you're going to be handing at some point a first round pick to Tanner Engstrand to develop. So I probably side with you that Glenn was probably ready to do this earlier, and then Tyrod got hurt, which is unfortunately kind of the issue with Tyrod over the last couple of years. And then Fields, they did beat the Bengals. They beat the Browns, but we got on this podcast and said we knew with Fields as the starter, especially after how he played against the Browns, despite the Jets winning, they were not going to be able to beat New England, and he still went with them anyway. And this is a mini bye week because you have the 10 days, so it gives a little extra preparation for Tyrod because let's be real. It's not Tyrod throwing to Garrett Wilson. It's Tyrod throwing to Adonai Mitchell and John Mechie. Like, these are new faces that he needs to get in sync with. So it was an if not now, when situation, and it had to be done. And honestly, it happened too late.
I agree. And I think the point about Engstrand is so important because you have a young offensive coordinator who's showing potential, who has such an important job next year, whether it's a rookie, whether it's a day two rookie, whether it's a new veteran they bring in by trade or free agency. He needs experience with a normal functioning offense here and a quarterback who can throw the football. And he just wasn't getting that with Fields. And the promise he's been showing, I think it's incredibly impressive how many guys were wide open against a good New England team with three new receivers, three guys who were not on the team in September. Their top three receivers right now, Mitchell, Mechie, Isaiah Williams, not on the roster in September. And he's finding a way to scheme them up, scheme them open. So now let's see what he can do with Tyrod. And look, I don't know how many games is Tyrod going to last out of these final 7, right? That's kind of what my question is, right? I'd be shocked if he could start all 7. I think we're going to see Fields maybe again before the year ends, unless they make him the emergency quarterback. We'll probably see Brady Cook at some point. The problem with Fields with Tyrod is, can he stay healthy? And I don't know how many games he gives them, but let's assume Tyrod starts the majority of the remaining games. How many wins do you think the Jets have left the rest of the way?
That's a great question. Let's do the old Mike and the Mad Dog here. And this is really hard with a bad team, right? Like, it's always very difficult with a bad team because you have games where they come out and they might surprise you, which, they, in all honesty, should have beat Denver, who's 9-2 right now. I mean, they could have beat the Bucs if they got one stop, who's a solid team in the NFC. But we don't think they're going to beat the Ravens. They'll be heavily, they're going to be big underdogs in that game. The Falcons are a disaster right now.
Kirk Cousins, no Drake London.
Kirk Cousins, who looks all but finished. And Drake London right now is kind of week to week, so he could play in that game. He might not. They still have Bijan and Algier where they can run the ball, and that's a problem for the Jets. Their secondary that was so promising, and they'll be Obrick will be a little bit more, fired up for that game, and the guys will know that and try to want to win one for him. But Falcons defense has started to fall apart. I would call that game a pick, right? By the way, the Falcons are underdogs against the Saints this week. If anybody's doubting this analysis, they're underdogs against Tyler Shuck. So by 1.5. So let's call that game a pick. Lost the Ravens 50-50 against the Falcons. Dolphins have been playing a lot better, man. They've been playing a lot better now. It's Miami in December at MetLife. They've been playing better, but they weren't great in Madrid against a poor Commanders team. I would probably call that game close to a pick 'em. Jacksonville, the Jets will not be favored. Jacksonville just beat the Chargers 35-6. Jets at New Orleans. And then they're home against the Pats and at Buffalo. And Buffalo probably needs that game now because of how things have gone for them this season. So 3 of the 7 games we think they can feasibly win. So let's say they win 2 more games. The Jets win 4 games this year.
Yep. I think that's the fair over-under line. 2 games, I think that's a reasonable expectation. And if you're a Jet fan, in my mind, mentally prepare right now to win 2 more games and don't have it ruin your entire winter. I think expecting them to completely lose out is just not realistic based on what we've seen in our recent Jets history. And look, they're being coached better. They're playing more competitively right now.
Yeah, there's some good things here.
Again, I've said this a few times. In the first year head coach, I think me actively rooting for them to lose, I'm just not feeling it. And how I root does not impact anything. I'm just trying to make peace with it now that they're unlikely to lose their final 8 games this season. There's probably 2 more wins in here. And that's going to mean you're picking 4th, 5th, or 6th, most likely, which, I mean, you tell me, might leave you on the outside looking in of Simpson and Mendoza, which brings us back to the big debate here. Do they have the luxury of not being proactive to move up to get one of them, if that's even an option, and waiting all the way until 2027? In my head, this team probably wins 2 more games and is not picking in the top 3. How do you react to that scenario is, in my mind, is the bigger question.
Right, because you look at the situation and you would, in theory, in that spot, have the Giants and the Titans ahead of you that would love to trade their picks. And then the rest is kind of like, let's say Tennessee finishes last.
I don't think they're winning another game.
They're awful. They're unfathomably bad. So the Titans say pick first. Let's, for argument's sake, say the Giants pick second. So that allows you 2 spots to jump whoever it's going to be, whether it's the Raiders, whether it's the Browns, whether it's the Saints, on and on it goes. One, nobody can confidently say right now any quarterback in this draft is worth doing that for, right? I like Simpson the best, and this is coming off not his best week. And then, the opinions, it's weird. It's just, I keep saying Mendoza is the guy where you look at him and you go, it's not that he's a bad prospect. It's just that he is not your typical high-end round 1 guy. Like, he feels like a guy that has a limited ceiling, and that's a dangerous way to draft a quarterback in the top 5. So the honest best pathway is, in that scenario, I'm not giving the Titans or the Giants a haul to go up and get a quarterback that I'm not even that sure about. That seems really, and the argument, well, you got all these picks to do that. No, you didn't. The roster stinks. You need the picks to make the roster better. So could you trade a 2nd round pick to go up? Yes, that's different. Are you trading a 1 and a 2 and a 3? Like, no. So in this draft, at least, this is going to be the real hard part for this regime that I don't envy the spot they're in. The difficult part is they probably will have an owner this offseason that wants a quarterback. And you can't manufacture a quarterback class, where the most logical path for the Jets, who have stunk forever, is to finally try to embrace a multi-year rebuild that I get the fans don't want to sit through. I get it. I'm talking about the lens of the guys running the team, because they haven't been sitting through this rebuild. They're trying to do the best thing for the next 5 years of the New York Jets. The fans that spend money every year and time and everything that just want the team to not be an embarrassment, I understand why you want them to be competitive next year. I absolutely have sympathy for both sides of this. But if I was running the team and I didn't love a quarterback in this draft and I'm picking 5th, then in that scenario, I'm going to do my due diligence on quarterbacks that could be available that are capable. Not great, but capable. And I got a lot of interesting responses to this on social media. Like, do you call and offer a 4th round pick for Mac Jones?
You're the Mac Jones guy now.
I somehow, which it's like everybody thinks I think he's the savior. I'm like, no, this is the bin you're dealing with right here, right? Like, this is the aisle you're shopping in because of the situation you're in. And then